Okay. Have you worked on the getting the contact and case information? Have you worked on the contact and case Omniscripts?
I was not able to. I was kind of busy with the work, so I will be doing it today.
Okay. So you will be doing for again today we will be working on the save. Okay. So you will be working on the both getting the information and saving the information. Okay. Yeah. Fine. So let's continue. Okay. So here yesterday we worked on this Omniscript, getting this information. So once you pass the context ID, so we're able to get the data, right? Now we can see the data is available in the data JSON, right? So where is the data now? Acme and the account information, phone like name, phone, website. You can see here in the data JSON. In the Omniscript data JSON, we can see the data like phone, website, name. So here, phone. Okay, what happen if user, let's say, if user update this information, right? You see here, the data JSON also got updated, right? So this JSON, so the JSON which is available in the step account, we have to send to this database. We have to update this account. We have to update this account, Acme account. So whatever the phone number, or if user update the website or phone number, we have to update this account. It can be any account. Okay. So if you see here, in this we have ID, we have the contact, the same, like you can see the context ID. So same context ID we have. The node, what is a node? So the node is context ID is the node, right? And we have the step contact, step account, phone, website, name. So these are the details we have. So with this detail, can we update the account? Do we have the required information to update the account? Do we have the information what is required to update the account? Like to update or delete, what is the main important? What we need in Salesforce? Anyone? To update the account or any record, so what we need? Anyone? Okay. So we need ID, record ID to update the, we need a record ID to update the account. We need record ID to update the account. So when we are passing this information, so step account is a parent node. Step account is a node element name, that is a parent node. And step account contains phone, website name, but step account doesn't contain the ID. Okay. So here in Velocity, if you are passing the, like, whatever the data JSON we have, let's say this is Omniscript. In Omniscript, we have in the step account, we have the data JSON. Okay, in the step account, we have the JSON, that is, in the step account, we have phone website name. We have phone website ID. Okay, we have phone and website. Let's say these two fields we need to update. In the next step, we have integration procedure. What we have after step account, what we have integration procedure, which help us to save the record. So how this integration procedure will get this data? How this integration procedure gets this data, so that it send that this integration procedure send the data to the integration procedure, and integration procedure send the information to the DataRaptor, and DataRaptor send the information to a database. So this is what we have to configure. So we need a DataRaptor, we need integration procedure, and what data you need to pass to integration procedure, what data it passed to the DataRaptor, and how it sends the data to database, Salesforce database. This is a flow. If you don't pass anything, let's say here, after changing the information, let's say I change this to 1, 2, 3, and if I click next, if you see the action debugger, so IP save account details, save integration procedure executed, and what request we are passing. Let me copy this request. So this is a request we are passing. If you observe here, is this the same like a data JSON what we have? Context ID to name, context ID to name. So we are passing the request is we are into the integration procedure. We are passing the entire JSON. We are passing the entire JSON what we have in our Omniscript. So here in integration procedure, the request is entire JSON, the complete JSON you are passing. The complete JSON you are passing, the integration procedure. So that is the IP save account details, right? IP save account details to this integration procedure. We are passing the request. Request to the integration procedure is total JSON. This is very, very important. I need your 100% attention here. So whatever the data is there in the JSON, it is complete data is passing here into the IP save account detail. That is the request. So let's see how we are passing that information. If I go to the remote properties, are we passing anything here? Are we passing anything here? Yes, no. Are we passing anything here? Any remote properties, any extra payload? Nothing, right? In send response transformation, are we passing anything? We are not passing anything here. That means if I don't specify anything, whatever the JSON will be there, it will just carry it to the next step. As this will execute in the top to bottom approach, whatever the JSON is there, entire JSON will be copied to the next step. It will carry to the next step. So IP save account details. As you did not specify anything, entire JSON is sending to the integration procedure. entire JSON sending to integration procedure. Okay. Now what if I want to send some only particular information? Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So if I want to specify any specific data node, so let's say this is my entire JSON, which I'm sending to the integration procedure. Now let's say I don't need all these details. I don't need all these details. I just need to pass step account. How to pass only step account? Previously we use a response JSON, right? Now let's use a send JSON path. I mentioned the send JSON path step account. I mentioned the parent node. I mentioned the parent node step account. Okay. Now let's see what I specified here. I specified in the send JSON path. I said step. I configured a step account. So what is that? What it is mean? It will just make sure that it will send only this particular data in the node, whatever the node step account node, whatever the data is there, it will just send only this piece. Let's see, preview. Let me just change something. Next, so IP save account details executed, and let me see the request data. What's the request data? It's sending only, right? If I now previously it was sending the whole JSON. Now only sending the step account. Only it is sending the step account. That is so here in the step account only it is pass when you pass only the send JSON path, whatever the node name you give here, whatever the node name you give here only. Sorry. Only it will pass that information. Only it will pass that information. Okay. So here in the send response transformation, if I specify step account colon name, step account colon name. Step account colon name means step account colon name, only account name. Let's see that. So IP save account details in the request data. What we are passing? Only name. Only name. Because you mentioned only step account colon name. Step account colon name. What? Okay, to update the account, only step account is not sufficient, right? So if I send step account phone website name, how it will make sure it will update only ACMA record? How Salesforce will recognize? Salesforce will recognize by record ID. Record ID. So for that, I can use step account, and in the remote property, if you want to pass additional extra payload, you can say account ID, and the ID is there in which node? You can use the ID node percentage ID. Now see now what is the request? Let me copy the request. Now observe what is happening. Okay, so what we are passing? We are passing the step account. This is in send.json path, and the account ID we are passing as an additional parameter. So we can use this like account ID. Okay, we can use this remote properties. We can use this send response transformation to pass the to send the request data, to send the request data. And one more important point here is, okay, what is send JSON node? Path we have to specify which path you want to send, and what is the send JSON node here? Okay, let's understand. I just give the account. Let's say I just give the account. Previously, this is the JSON, right? Previously, this was a JSON. Okay, now I have just given in send JSON node, I just gave the account. Let's see. Let me clear the log. IP save account details in request data. Okay, what did you observe here? What is the difference in this and in this? What is the difference?
Instead of step account, it's now account.
Yeah, the node name updated over into account. So here what we are saying is, in the send response transformation, when you update the node name, it will override the node name. It will override the node name. So send JSON path, if you just specify that, it will make sure that the data will be sent only step account. Data will be sent only step account, and the node name also, whatever the node name will be there, it will send the same node name. If you want to override and send in a new node, you can specify the node name, in which node name you want to send the data. Okay, that is overriding the node name. If you want to override the node name, you can specify the node which you want to override. Okay, so that is all the send JSON path and send JSON node. Response is, if okay, when we use response, if I am getting the data as a response from the previous step, what node I want, what path I want, that we have to mention the response JSON path. Okay, so it will send the response if it is getting the response. Okay, how it will send the, okay, next to the next step, how it will send the data in the specified JSON. Only the specified JSON path it will send, that is response JSON. Okay, now we are not using anything here. We are not using send JSON path, or we are not using the send JSON node. Also, let's remove the extra payload. That means we are sending the complete information. We are sending the complete, just to make sure we are sending the complete request data. If you don't mention anything, it will send entire JSON, whatever available in this the previous node. Okay, as it will take a carry forward. So everyone, open the teammate account Omniscript. Open the teammate account Omniscript. Open the teammate account Omniscript. and pass the context, click preview, and pass the record ID, and make sure that you see the data, and make sure you are on the action debugger tab, and click next, and you see IP save account details is executed. So once you expand the IP save account details, you should be seeing the request data. So expand the request data, or you can copy the request data. This JSON we need. So let me know once you copied the JSON.
I copied the JSON.
Okay. Fine. So here, what is happening? So you are sending this JSON. We are sending this JSON, okay, to the integration procedure, and integration procedure also send this JSON to, if you don't specify anything, it will send the JSON to DataRaptor. Let's say DataRaptor also taking this JSON. So what is for the DataRaptor? For the DataRaptor, what is the input? What is input JSON? This JSON is the input JSON. This is the input JSON. This is the input JSON. Okay. So what we are getting from the Omniscript to integration to DataRaptor. So that is the input JSON. So we are getting the input JSON. So this information, DataRaptor will take this input JSON, and what is the output? It must send the data to a database. So here, what is output? Where it should, from the input JSON, the JSON is coming, the input JSON is coming to the DataRaptor, and DataRaptor has to send that information to database. That is output. That is output. So here, what is output? Input is JSON, output is here it is S object, because you need to send the data to S object. Any S object, account, contact, opportunity, position, any custom object, any standard, any custom object, there is any S object. That is output. We need to pass the data to our JSON S object. So how to make sure the account will get updated? So in account object, okay, we have in S object, let's say here it is account object. In account object, we have all the fields, name field, website, field, phone. Like here we are using some fields. How we make sure that phone will go to only update the phone field, website data will go to the website? How would we make sure? In DataRaptor, we have to do the mapping. We have to do the mapping. So what is mapping here? Okay. So the data is there available in the step account node. And what field? Let's say phone field. Step account : fold should go to the which? Okay, account object. API name of the object, account object, phone, account object. Like that, you have to map step account colon website, account colon website. So this is the input. This is the input JSON, and this is output as object fields. Output as object fields. This is what we need to do mapping. Okay, we need to do the mapping like this. So ID is an individual directory ID we have. So ID should match with ID, account ID, so that it will make sure which account it should update, which record it should update based on the record ID. So all the fields we have to map. DataRaptor, here we need to use the interface called DataRaptor load. DataRaptor load. DataRaptor interface type is DataRaptor load. Okay. But one more doubt here. We discussed that DataRaptor do the upsert operation. What is meant by upsert? Insert plus update. Okay, if it is doing the upsert, so how it will determine whether it is an update or insert? Because upsert means it can be insert or it can be update. It can be insert or it can be update. So how it will make sure whether it is a insert or update? Okay, for that we have in the mappings, when you do the mapping, in every mapping we have two, okay, there are a couple of checkboxes. The other checkbox also, but they're very important. There are two checkboxes. There are two checkboxes. One checkbox is required for upsert. The second checkbox is upsert key. So what is this is required for upsert and upsert key? What it will do, what these two checkbox will do? What these two checkbox will do? This is available in the when you do the mapping in the DataRaptor. When you do the mapping, every mapping have these two checkboxes. When you do the mapping, every mapping will have these two checkboxes. So what is required for upsert will do is it will do, if you check the is required for upsert, whichever mapping, if you do the check, if you check the checkbox, the data must be available for that mapping, for that node. If I say step account colon phone is required for upsert, means to update or insert, that phone should have the value. Phone should have always value. If the phone is not there, it will not insert or it will not update. If the data is specified, wherever you check the checkbox, if the data is blank, it will skip the record. It will not go for insert or it will not go for update. It will not do anything. It just skip the record, means you are just making sure that okay, the data should be available in that particular node. You are making the field mandatory. To update the record, to insert the record, this field should have the value. This node should have the value. Otherwise, don't do update, don't do insert. That is required for upsert. If the data is there, it will process to go for update or insert. If the data is not there, it will skip the record. Okay. What is upsert key? What is upsert key here? The upsert key here is in the mapping, let's say if I do the mapping for phone or ID. If I check, like let's say if I check the phone as a upsert key, in the database, it will look for the same phone exists in the database or not. The same data is available in the existing data or not. If the same phone is exist, it will update. If the same phone is not there, it will insert the record. So here we have to use, okay, if it is update operation, so we have to use for ID. ID must be there, and ID is the upsert key, because ID is unique to the org. ID will be exist. So if ID found, it will do for update. So in upsert key, at least one match found in the existing database. Upsert key, if you make it as upsert key, it will look into the existing database. If at least one match found, what happened? If it is at least one match, then it will update the record. If no match found, what happened? If no match found, what happened? It will insert the record. In the upsert key, if at least one match found, it will update the record. If no match found, it will insert the record. That is upsert key. This is very, very, very important. This is very, very, very important. Where we do this? We do this in the mapping. Where we do this? We do this in the mapping. Okay. So let's do this. So everyone, go to the Omnistudio DataRaptors. Copy paste the data JSON in Notepad. We are using that. Here. Click new. Go to the DataRaptor. Click new and let me know once you're on the same page.
I'm on the page.
Okay. So give the name team, save account details. So what is the interface type? What is the interface type? What is the interface? What is the interface type here? Yeah. What you was doing here? You are saving the record. It's a DataRaptor load. It's a DataRaptor load. So what is the input? What we are getting input? What we are getting input? JSON. What is output? Output is
S object.
Okay. So input type JSON, output type is S object. Save. So once you save, it will take to the DataRaptor load. It will take to the DataRaptor load. It will take to the DataRaptor load. Design them. Okay. So first thing. So which object you want to update?
Account.
Account object. Very good. So select here, add object, and select account object. Select account object. So you see here, we have add object means we can add multiple object. If I add multiple object, the update or insert will happen in the sequence. So it is one account. If I add another object, it will be 2 contact, 3 opportunity, 4 case, like that. Okay, cool. So that is our object, account object we are updating. Go to the fields. Go to the fields tab. Here we need to do the mapping. And here you can see one account. Here I can see one account. If you add multiple object, we see multiple tabs. One account, 2 contact, 3 opportunities, like that. Okay. So what is input JSON? What in JSON we are getting? So we have copied the JSON, right? So you can paste that input JSON. Whatever the JSON we copied, we paste in the input JSON. You paste the input JSON. Okay. So this is my input JSON, right? So what I should do here? Here, this is my input JSON. So we are getting this input JSON, and I need to send this to as object. So how we have to perform this? We have to do this. We have to do this mapping. We have to do this mapping. So how to do the mapping? You can click the plus sign, and what is the input JSON? What is the object field, right? So what is the input JSON and what is output object field? So we have to specify. We can do this manually. We can do this manually, like plus sign and select the input JSON. So step account name should go to the name, account name, like that. You can do the mapping. Okay, you can do the mapping like this. Okay, but what we are doing here is we are performing the quick match. Because we have the input JSON, node names, name, phone, website, and ID. And in the quick map, if you click on the quick match, you see the input mapping and output mapping. Okay, input is this is a JSON, step account name, step account phone, step account website. And here we have selected one account object. So one account colon name, phone, website. If the name of the fields, and JSON nodes are same, you can click on auto match. You can see the mapping is done. Oh, wow. What if you click on auto match and there is no, let's say for example, ID, account ID. Account ID did not match. What I should do? So you can search for the fields, let's say ID. This is account ID, and here we have ID. Here is ID. These two I need to map. How to do in the quick match? How to, if there is no mapping is done? Even in the quick match, if no mapping is done, how to do the mapping manually? So you have to drag and drop on the same field. You have to drag and drop on the field, same field, same. You can see the mapping is done. Understood? This is quick match. Save. You can see the mapping is done. Instead of doing the manually, because we have the input JSON, we have the input JSON. Okay. Now for which field, which mapping, we have to check the upsert key. Which mapping? Name, phone, website, or ID? Which mapping, which field, which mapping we have to make the upsert key? Like we have did this step account colon phone, like phone. That's what we did here. Step account colon name, name, step account colon phone, phone, website, website. Okay, ID and ID. Cool. Yes, tell me how, which mapping we have to make that upsert key to make sure it is update.
So upsert key helps us to find out if there are already existing values in database, right? Is that what upsert is?
If the existing record is there, it will update. If there is no existing record, if the value is not there, it will create a record.
Got it.
Okay. Okay, so here we have to make sure the ID. If you click on the pencil icon, the ID mapping, if you click on the pencil icon, you see upsert key and is required for upsert, right? So if I say is required for upsert, what happens? The ID value should be there. If the ID node is blank, it will not update, or it just skip the record. It just skip the record. It just skip the record. If upsert key checkbox is checked, it will verify. If the upsert key is checked, it will verify for the existing data is there or not. If the existing data is present, it will update. If existing data ID is not found, then it will insert the new record. That is for is upsert key and is required for upsert. Is required means yes, this data is required to do the update or insert. Upsert key, what it will make sure? It will make sure that the data is present in the database, it will update. If the data is not there, it will insert the record. It will insert the record. Clear, everyone?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. So we are done. How you can make sure? You copy the input JSON, go to preview. In preview also give the same JSON and change the something. Okay, here we have changed like acme.com 123, right? And execute. It should update the, okay, you see, if you see the this account ID means it will update it. If you click on the account, that link, it will take to the, it will open the record and you can see the website is updated to www.acme.com 123. That means our DataRaptor is working fine. Okay. Okay. Have you verified?
Yes, I was able to see.
Okay, that's good. So the DataRaptor is ready. Now let's go to the integration procedure. In the first tab, the drop down, select Omni Studio integration procedure and search for team. And you see for team, save account details. Team save account details, you see team starter save account detail version 1. So open this team starter save account details. So first version, you can create a version here. Click on the create version and remove the starter name. It should sound team save account details. Okay, so which action here we have to select? Which action we need to select here? DataRaptor. Which action we have to select here? Integration procedure. Yes. What action? Extract, post, transform, or turbo? Give any one name. Just try. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm just looking at my notes. 1 minute.
Transform action.
Not transform. Transform is to convert the data JSON from
JSON.
XML to XML or XML to JSON, like that. XML to JSON, JSON, yeah. So here we have to use a post. Action name is DataRaptor post action. So drag and drop the DataRaptor post action.
I was guessing that I should have said it.
Yeah, okay. So DataRaptor post action and give the name DR DataRaptor save account details. And what is interface name? Team save account details. This is the DataRaptor which we created. Team save account details. That's all. That's all. That's it. But what we have to do? So add the DataRaptor element name, give the element name and interface type. Then
Yes.
so DR save account details and just add team save account. Now what we should do? If I want to use this integration procedure, I have to activate it. So may please click on the procedure configuration and activate the version. Now go to your integration procedure. Go to your Omniscript. Now you just click preview, pass the context ID, and see website is getting the 1, 2, 3, right? Now remove 1, 2, 3 and say next. It should update. When you reload, you should get the data which is available in the database. You can see now it's updated to just acme.com. So here in Omniscript, you update anything like say phone number 6450. I'll say 6460. Let me refresh. you can see that the data is updated to 6460. The data is getting updated, right? So your integration procedure also working. So you are passing the same JSON to DataRaptor. What you are doing? You are doing the same. You are getting this in data from Omniscript to the integration procedure. Integration procedure is passing the same data as input to the DataRaptor, and that it will do the mapping, and it is updating the record. Okay, clear everyone?
Yes.
Are you verified? Any issues here?
No.
Any queries here?
No.
How to save the data? Is that clear? How to send the data to database? How to retrieve the data from the database? So yesterday we have seen how to retrieve the data. Now we have seen how to send the data to database using the integration procedure and DataRaptor. Okay. So you have to work on team edit contact Omniscript and team edit case Omniscript. Getting the data. Now yesterday we worked on the getting, and today we worked on the save part. So getting and saving getting the data and saving the data for team edit contact and team edit case, for both you should do. Okay. So please complete this offline work. This is very important to test the end-to-end functionality. So we need this. Okay. So tomorrow we'll continue with team update primary contact. Team update primary contact Omniscript, the complex Omniscript. We will continue with the team update primary contact Omniscript. Okay. So where we'll update where we get the primary contact details, where we worked on the change contact, that is typed block, and creating the primary contact, and we'll see we'll see the extent they have to work with the data. A lot of things we will do. Okay. Fine. If anyone have any questions?
None for me.
Okay, cool. If no one have any questions, we can wrap up the session and we'll connect tomorrow, same time. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening, good night. Take care.
Thank you.